Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the ECB focus session. Today's topic will be the Eurosystem Collateral Management System. We're delighted to have a lot of people with us today, so it will be a super interesting event, we hope. Short and sharp, 2.5 hours. My name is Aileen. I'm here with a great support team of the ECB colleagues who will support as much as we can on the back end. So we really want you to engage as much as possible with you. So, you will have different options to communicate with us. You may have noticed that you are muted. This is to ensure that the sound quality is good. So it's on purpose, but it doesn't prevent you from speaking with us as much as possible. And we do encourage this. So, feel free to ask questions in the chat. You can write in the chat if you're connected to the WebEx. If you're not connected to the WebEx, but watching this session with the live stream, you can send us emails. So do this to mip.events@ecb.europa.eu. It will be open the whole time, and we will make sure that we pick up on all these questions wherever they're coming from. I just want to flag that you guys tend to be super active, and we really appreciate this, and it's super good. But also bear with us that we will probably not be able to answer all questions that come in throughout the morning, but we will do our best. But, keep shooting them in. We really appreciate this. It's super good to see that you guys are all engaged. I also just wanted to flag that the whole event is being recorded. All the presentations will be uploaded on the webpage together with the recording after the event. So you will have the opportunity to watch it again if there's anything that you want to revisit or you missed. So don't worry about that. So that's just to clarify up front. Also, at the very end of the event, I want to encourage you to participate in the survey that we're running. It's just a very short 2-minute survey, but it really helps us design these events so that they're best suited for you and that they fit what you need. So take that 1 minute at the end just to fill it in. It's super quick. So that's it from my side on the practical. So as you can see here, we have an interesting program ahead of us and have lots of things to dive into. So I just want to remind you that there is the live stream. So in case you're facing difficulties in the WebEx, move to the live stream. It's running on the website the whole time. And that's it from my side. So I just want to hand over to our first speaker and welcome George, Deputy Head of Division, who will introduce today's event. So George, over to you.
Thank you, Eileen. You hear me well, I hope?
Yes.
A good morning from my side and very welcome to all of you. As Eileen mentioned, I was taken by the interest of this event. We have reached the buffer of 1,200 registered users in this event. I just was looking into the statistics yesterday, covering over 30 countries and 3 continents, also covering more than 500 individual institutions. I have to say I was a bit surprised that there's such a global interest on the Eurosystem Collateral Management System and let's say the back kitchen of the Eurosystem collateral taking. But probably there is explanation to that, that apart from the collateral takers and collateral, let's say, providers in the monetary policy, there is an ecosystem of institutions that provide services to these actors. And also probably one can keep in mind the impact from the ECMS standards, communication standards, and the impact they may have in the wider collateral management market. So a strong interest, as Eileen has said, and thank you very much for being here with us. This is the 3rd event on ECMS, and we designed it in a way to reflect the good feedback we received from you in the previous sessions, previous one being in June 2023. And as Eileen said, you're highly, let's say, invited and advised to interact in the chat and in all the channels that we mentioned. Now, I want to say a few words on where we are and what has happened since last June before I give the floor to the team. So what is important is to keep in mind that the key principle for the success of ECMS for us is to make sure that all relevant stakeholders, and by that I mean the national central banks of the Eurosystem, both on the side of the service provision for NCBs or 4CB, as we call it in our jargon, the Eurosystem central banks as users of the system, collateral takers, but also the communities, monetary policy counterparties, the CSDs, the central securities depositories. They all prepare and they have enough time to test with good quality and stable functionalities. This is a key principle and a key success factor for us going live. And this is what the ECB Governing Council took into account when around end of November last year decided to reschedule the go live of ECMS from April 8th of April 2024 to 18th of November 2024. Yeah, some people were questioning, reaching out to us, why this happened. I would say that sometimes it's good to reschedule. It's the brave option and it's the best option to do. And I hope that the increased, I would say, testing surface that this will provide to all the above mentioned stakeholders would prove that that was a wise choice. In terms of what has happened and what had achieved since June last year, I would say we ran 2 migration tests in the meantime. We had all the CSDs and a vast majority of the counterparties to the monetary policy, to the NCBs, managed to get connected to our test environment, or U-test as we use in our jargon. We are going to hear a lot of acronyms today, but I hope they will be clarified and spelled out. We also finalized a training with the national central banks. Sometimes this is called training the trainer. It's basically all these people in the teams in the 20 jurisdictions of the Euro area, in the NCBs that will help the markets and will train their own counterparties in the markets. And also we increased, I hope, the information flow and the publication both to the market, but also to the CSDs, central securities depositories, and the TPAs, the third-party agents, to provide more information. And also we also organized fortnightly meeting pattern with especially with the CSDs. These are key factors in our view in providing securities accounts between collateral takers and collateral providers. Now, where are we now? Obviously we are 10 months before the go live. We are in the middle of the community testing phase, which includes also migration testing, and Bobby, Bamini, and Aiza will also give us more information on that and how we need to use a roadmap that will be presented to you to complete this testing by, let's say, September, October 2024. Not everything is as rosy as it sounds. There are challenges with some functionalities of ECMS, and we are working hard to have them released in the coming weeks. I want to be very transparent. Key functionalities like the open market operations, or OMO in our jargon, or functionalities around the credit claims, specific assets that we use in monetary policy, we hope to be released, as I said, in the coming weeks. Also, soon in April 2024, we expect the migration to the production environment to take place, and I would say it's a key milestone. Flora, the ECMS project manager, today will also update us on the overall project planning and refer more to the actions that are relevant also for you and your teams to, as I said, to be able to follow the rescheduling pattern and be able to test and participate in the testing phases. Regarding the support from the Eurosystem, and by Eurosystem I refer both to the ECB, but also to the national central banks and the 20 jurisdictions. Our aim is to continue to support you and to ensure that you have a good and smoothly onboarding to ECMS. As you can imagine, this is key for monetary policy implementation, and there is a strong interest, I can reassure you, from the ECB Governing Council to closely monitor these developments and have an obligation to report back to them very, very frequently, I would say. I will not bother you more with introductory remarks. I think the team will have much more interesting messages than me to pass on to you. One final word from my side: I would really advise everybody to take advantage of today's event. Use the chat, the opportunity to bombard us with questions and requests. We'll try to accommodate most of them and address them. If not, we can even take some of them bilaterally outside. But take advantage of today's event and take advantage also of this rescheduling opportunity and the momentum to increase your, let's say, testing engagement and to the available functionalities that we, as I said, made available in the coming weeks. Nothing more from my side, Eileen. Wish you a very fruitful session today, and I think you mentioned that the working of today will be recorded. The slides will be available, and you'll be able to even revisit it in the ECB website. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. So that was our introduction to today's event. So as George reminded you, do engage with us throughout today. So, you know, talk to us in the chat or send your emails with questions. We will be picking them up. So, you know, so do that because it would really, it benefits you. This is why we're doing these events are really for you. So thank you, George. I know you will be following us today, and will, you know, be there as well to pick up on questions. So we want to move on to the first part of the program. We're going to dive into the planning and update on the project plan. And for this, we have Flora with us. So over to you, Flora.
Thank you, Lynn. Good morning to everybody. Thank you for the nice greeting from you, from George, and also in the chat from the participants. I think, as George mentioned, we have already met 2 times, and since we met in this composition the previous time, lots of things happened. The counterparty testing was open. Some of you are already testing. Some might have not started or not in full scope, but you know much more about the system now than you knew last time when we have met. So what happened is, when during the summer, then the counterpart and the community testing kicked in, then of course we were closely following the progress. Also the Market Infrastructure Board in the Eurosystem, which is the system owner committee for ECMS, we were following the progress, the software stabilization, the testing progress, all the efforts of the stakeholders, and the buffer time that we had. And then if we go to the first page, then we reach the important decision that happened during autumn, is that the Governing Council decided that the users need more time to complete the testing of the ECMS functionalities and to do that in a stable environment. So following the assessment by the Market Infrastructure Board, then the launch date has been rescheduled, and it is scheduled now to 18th November 2024. We consider that this additional time will ensure greater system stability and a higher level of user readiness, which is very important since we have a big bang migration. And then all this will facilitate a smooth migration to the new platform, a longer time available for testing and rehearsing the migration. The new launch date also meant a new plan, so a new project plan, a more detailed replanning followed by all the stakeholders and all the work streams. Some of these work streams are not visible to you. What is visible, or the most visible and the most important to you, is the testing, and the rescheduling exactly mainly affected the timing and the length of the testing phases, and the planned migration test appointed time when they are happening, and the number of these migration tests. It will enable the new plan, the actors, to support the various testing stages and activities in parallel, because the NCBs and many stakeholders, they act in multiple roles. They are also testing on their own behalf, but they are also supporting the community, vice versa. The CSDs can also support the NCBs in certain migration activities, testing or do their own preparation for the go live. So the goal was that all these parallel activities, they are happening more efficiently with more ease and more assurance. The Eurosystem, of course, will continue to support the users throughout the testing execution phase, and then we would like to ensure that sufficient progress is made and then all the milestones are reached on time. We go to the next slide, then I gathered here a few points. What was behind the consideration when we designed the new project plan. The goal was to optimize the testing plan available, as I mentioned, for the community, and to perform all the functional testing and migration testing with full scope and with CLM and T2S interconnection. So as George mentioned, some abbreviations are there, but some of you might know ECMS is operating with a large ecosystem, and CLM and T2S, the payment system and the security settlement system, is very important for the end-to-end testing. So in order to do full end-to-end testing, we have to ensure also this connection, and sometimes we can be connected to CLM and T2S without disturbing their own operations or their own necessities. But in some other times, we were not granted this access, and then these systems have to be replaced by a simulator. This resulted in the fact that the community testing phase was split into several phases, and indeed these phases are according to the connection to CLM and T2S or not. The community testing phase was also planned with bigger blocks of functionalities because we felt and we listened to the request that during the summer, maybe the staggered approach with the smaller packages to be released to the testers was not optimal. So we were striving for having bigger packages and releasing them in shorter point in time. Then the migration tests, which were extended, so we have more than before. Then they were positioned after the key user testing milestone, so to ensure better testing conditions. We also have production activities on the production platform, not on the testing platforms, and the goal was there to have better or same conditions. So we have the same duration for these activities as in the previous project plan, but the go no-go decision is 6 weeks before go live, in contrast to 4 as we had before. All this was also coming from lesson learned, so the experiences we have gained in the previous project in consolidation, for example. Same way, based on the lesson learned from previous project, the stabilization period was also extended. So these are the considerations behind the new project plan, and then all this is depicted here visually. What would that mean? You can see the upper part of the plan is the Eurosystem acceptance environment, that is for the NCBs, for the ECB, for the NCBs, and for the CSDs. And then if you are a counterparty or a bank, then you are interested in the lower part of the picture, which is the pre-production environment, depicting these phases that I mentioned are split according to connection time or not, which are shown with dotted lines. All this will be explained in detail by Bobby and Bamini in the next presentation. So they will go into the details of the testing plan or zoom in to the upcoming months and what is important for the upcoming milestones. I will focus more on other parts of the project plan as well. A little bit you see in the lower part, there is also the readiness workstream. What is important for the success of the Big Bang migration is that we also gather intelligence. We also know about your status, and then you report about that. We have a community readiness framework, a reporting framework that is based on cycles. So we are looking forward to receiving this information from the community, from all the relevant countries, and this will happen in June and September. Why in June and September? Because with the replanning, we also rationalized this reporting. We get lots of information from you on the testing status regularly, and we wanted to reduce the burden on you for this reporting. So whatever we get and receive in the reporting, in the framework of the testing reporting, we will not ask it again in the framework of the community testing reporting, and then we will focus on the milestones that don't appear in the testing reports. So there will be 2 upcoming cycles only. This is less than how we planned before. This will be with a cutoff in June and with a cutoff in September. If we go to the next slide, that you can also see which milestones I am speaking about for this community readiness reporting. You have seen this picture, I think, many times, so I would not like to go through again. You are in the middle of the picture. It's not proportionate to time. What is important is that around this time now, beginning of the year, then we assume that the internal staff training has completed. As George mentioned, we set the basis for that by our own internal training also, according to this train the trainer concept. So we hope that also on CSD, TPA and counterparty side, also the training of internal staff has been completed nowadays. And then on top of the testing, we have the production activities. Then also there are other work streams like operational readiness. So I assume in all the stakeholders, as in the Eurosystem and in the ECB also, you are updating your internal manuals, your internal processes, and that are very late, close to go decision. There is a deadline set for this to complete that, the adaptation of the operational procedures. Apart from that, there are certain contractual and legal obligations that we all have to meet. So the related documentation and everything, the rules have to be also adapted. Pre-migration activity completion also for September 24. And all from these milestones, I would like to focus a little bit on the production activities. If we go to the next slide, it's you will find more information about this also in our information material, which is on the website. But to explain a bit, this is everything that happens on the production environment. So previous graph was more about the testing environments, and this is for the production environment. In the new plan, the connectivity setup that was supposed to happen in autumn in the previous plan will start in April. This is from April to June, the connectivity setup and execution. And then after that, from the end of the summer, it's already with the setup of reference data and preparation for the go-no-go decision. The pre-migration activity starts going towards the go-no-go decision, which is meant for 4th of October. So this is the plan for the production environment. Put it in your own project plan as well. I'm sure you have done already. If we go to the last slide, then some references, how we help your work, also your planning and preparation and readiness for the ECMS Go Live. We gathered here the most relevant publications. Bamini and Bobby will mention also further publications that might be useful for testing. But what is good to know is that we created a customized version for the strategy, migration and testing strategy, the TOR, the terms of reference for the pre-production environments where you are testing, and also for the fundamental test cases, these are available. Then on top of these strategy or conceptual documents, there are also a couple of explainers or information documents, which is, for example, the explainer on the business configuration, then the business rules in ECMS, and the status codes, there is the status codes in ECMS, and of course, the catalog of messages for those testing in A2A. That's also very important. For all these deliverables, if there is an update required, then we will do so in the course of this year or towards the last quarter of the second quarter, of the year. And then for sure, towards the end of the year for the Go Live, we will create also a Go Live version. So please browse our website for the information items or contact your NCB, and then we will also know if there is any material missing or information. So I think that was from my side for the planning and the project plan.
Thank you, Flora. Super interesting. So now we have a nice overview of the plan ahead. We are starting to get some questions ticking in, but I think some of these questions actually will be answered in the presentations that will follow. So maybe we will continue then with the next presentation on testing. I just on the slide, you can now again see that you can keep shooting us questions in the chat or also via email if you are connected to the live stream. Because I think we're going to answer a lot of those questions. If we don't, we will come back to them. So Flora is not leaving. Flora will stay with us. So I think the best would be that we move on with the next presentation, which is on user testing, because some of your questions that are ticking in, I'm sure Bobby and Bamini will answer those in a minute. So just, hold on. I know you're anxious. Hold on. It will be coming. So Bobby, I want to hand over to you and I want to thank Flora. And I hope Flora stays with us. And then we want to hand over to Bobby first and then Bamini for the next presentation on user testing. So Bobby, over to you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bobby Bashford. I'm lead on this work stream of user testing and migration for the ECMS. And thank you very much, everyone, for participating. We have quite a lot of information for you in the next two sets of slides. First of all, Bamini will go through the user testing, and then Anna-Isa will go through the migration. And these are really the important points. We are, as George said, we are in our community testing now. We are trying to open up as much of the functionality as we can for you. And that is what we will go through now in these slides. So first, if we look at the planning slide, you can see here, Flora already went through it. We can look at it in a little bit of depth. If you see, we are in the community testing phase 2C. You can see here that CLM and T2S are connected to ECMS in our pre-production environment, the environment that the counterparties are testing in. What's very important is coming up is that we will, at the end of January, we will open up further functionality to you. Bamini is going to go through it piece by piece. The important point here is that today we are still working on how much of the functionality we can open, and that this will be made clear in the testing conditions document. Now, we will speak to you about documentation for the testing. Your Bible, if you like, is the testing conditions document, and this is the one that you will need to. It's on the ECB site. It's constantly being updated, and this is the one that you will need to look at. So Bamini will go through what is currently can be tested, what is going to be opened up end of January, what is going to be opened up end of February. She will go through the restrictions, but this is only on a high level. You will need to go back onto the ECB site and look in the constantly updated testing conditions document to see if there are any restrictions to the functionality that we will open up. We're looking to open up as much as we can. The 4CB are working very hard delivering fixes to our environment. So this is the current planning. Another very important point is the non-repudiation of origin, the Assertia GoSign desktop. Bamini will speak to you about that. It's very important that you have installed the correct version before we open up this functionality to you. We are currently testing it internally, and we will let you know about the date that we plan to open it up. It will be inserted in the testing conditions document. Your NCB, your National Central Bank, your National Service Desk will also make you aware, and your NCB is your main point of contact at all times throughout this process. So these are the two in the plan. If you look, these are the two milestones, if you like, end of January, end of February, where we're going to open up further functionality. You can see in mid-April that we disconnect from CLM and T2S. This is because our T2S colleagues need to be able to test in a production-like manner for the June release. So during April and May, the T2S community and the T2 community are testing CLM and testing T2S in the manner in which it will be in June, which is not connected to the ECMS service. And for that reason, that's why we disconnect, and that is why we will reconnect then in June after the go live of the release 2024 in T2, after the go live of release 2024 in T2S. So then in June, we will reconnect. What you need to look at in June is a very important testing phase or testing activity, which is the business day testing. This is where we will run a live timing schedule. So it will be the same schedule as is run in production. As you know now, in the test environment. We don't run the operational day or the business day in a production manner. We run it with a different, the end of day process takes place a little bit earlier in the day. This will not be the case during this business day testing. So please be aware that you will have production-like conditions in terms of the schedule here during July and August. And this is a very important point. And then later, Anna-Isa will speak to you about the upcoming tests. These are very important, the migration tests. We have a pre-test. We have the migration weekend dress rehearsal, where we carry out the activities of the weekend in the same manner as it will be carried out on the go-live date. These are important tests for us, and Anna-Isa will explain why. But this is really what you need to know, everything about the upcoming functionality that we're going to open. I'll hand you over to Bamini now, and she will go through it.
Okay. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, all of you, and good morning. Yeah, so here, thanks. I think that was a good overview of all the testing phases on the community testing phase. So with that overview, I would actually go now to the next few slides. Here we will discuss about in detail about the scope that is currently being opened for testing, and then the scope, functional domain scope that would be opened in the future, in the next couple of months for testing. Yeah. So with that one, then the first slide here, what you see here, this gives an overview of the functionalities that have already been opened for testing. Yeah. So with that one, the first thing is on the reference data. So here you see the reference data, marketable assets, testing, and then the global credit and collateral positions, cash as collateral, and here all these four domains have been opened, yeah, fully. When come to credit claims, we still and the monetary policy operations, the full scope is not yet opened for testing of the counterparties. Nevertheless, we have opened partially the domain, yeah, the credit claims, where we have opened for registration and update functionality, and then for the monetary policy operations, the marginal lending on request and the automatic marginal lending, it's open for testing. Yeah, so this is where we stand as of now. So regardless of what we communicate here, we always request you to discuss with your NCP counterparts, and then check with them for the green light before you commence with the testing. Yeah, that's the main another message that we would also like to pass here. So that's all I have to say here on the slide. Okay, that's the one that we have opened. So now moving on to the next couple of months. So there, the first functionality which we are planning to open soon, yeah, which would be next week already, that would be the corporate action testing. So here again, the scope we would still open partially, starting from the 29th of January. You will be able to start testing the corporate action functionality, but then partially. Yeah. So here, this is what you see in the scope to the left hand side of this slide. So you see the scope that's going to be opened as from 29th of January. So we open the basic mandatory corporate action testing, which is being tested by the NCPs here in the internal environment. So, and hence if they are all successful, the NCP at your side will also give the green light for this testing scope. Yeah, so when I go detailed into the scope, so first part, you see the events, 5 events. So the basic one, so interest payments, redemption, partial redemption, early early redemption, and things like this, so are going to be opened. And then with respect to the scenarios, again, we have given here the reception, so notification, basically, so corporate action notification and announcement, corporate action and advice, and then corporate action confirmation. Yeah, so those 3 scenarios are what we have focused in the last couple of months on testing for the corporate action, and that's something that we would like to now also open to the community. Okay, so this is the plan for the 29th of January. And when the remaining remaining functional domain on the corporate action will be opened. So here, this is currently planned to be opened on the 26th of February. That's next month. Yeah, the testing is still ongoing here. So we wanted to stabilize it and then would like to open it to the community as from 26th of February. Again, as I stated in the previous slide, so for all the domains, the details, the restrictions, if there are any open issues, known issues, all these information, they are there in the testing conditions document. Yeah, and we also advise you to liaise with your NCB counterpart to get the green light before you start the testing on these functional area. Yeah, that's all I have to say on the corporate action. Thank you. Then if we go to the next domain, which we are also critical functional domain, which we are also focusing now is the monetary policy operation testing. So here, as I said in the first slide on the user testing, so on the marginal ending on request and the automatic marginal ending, they are opened, yeah, already. But then we still have open market operations that are to be opened for testing for the community. So here, what is the plan is currently the testing is ongoing, and the plan is to open the monetary policy, so open market operations testing, yeah, with the tender operations module. Yeah, this is planned to be from 20th of February 2024. That's again next month. And here again, I would like to mention that not all the open market operations are planned to be opened as from 20th of February, but only the ones that we have successfully tested and where it's quite stable, then those are all the operations that we would be opening to the community for the testing as from 20th of February. And the details of these operations that we would be opening, yeah, we will bring these information in the testing conditions document, yeah, like how we said for the corporate action in the previous slide. Similarly, we will go into the details of the scope that's going to be open and from when you can test this and what you can test and what are all the restrictions, if there are limitations. All these information we will bring in the testing conditions document that's being published on a fortnightly basis. Okay, so this is what on this slide. Okay, so now that we have focused on the corporate action, the monetary policy operation, we still have other domains, yeah, subdomains or domains, functional domains to be open to the counterparties, to the community. So where do we stand there? So if you see here in this slide, so we still have marketable assets and the credit claim. So big portion of credit claim, it's still yet to come for testing for the community. And then the tri-party agent functionality, pool position and projections, and provision of reference data to the T2S and the TPA, statements and reports. Yeah, so those domains, functional domains, are also currently being actively tested, and the objective is also to open these domains, yeah, what I stated here up until statements and reports. And also the plan is to open this as from 26th of February 2024. Yeah, of course, I repeat this again and again, so please wait also for the green light from your NCBs before you start the testing on these domains. Okay, so that's the date or the plan for the domains up until statements and reports. For billing and then for the testing of the multiple distinguished names. So here the planning is still ongoing, and we will come back to you through the testing conditions document. We will come back to you with the timeline on when the billing and the DNs, yeah, this functionality could be tested. Okay, and then the last point, which was also mentioned by Bobby in the introductory slide for the UTs on the GSD Associate Cosine desktop. So here, yeah, we really advise the community to install the latest software. Yeah, so this is a new version, and then the client is basically available also for you to download, and the link is also there in the testing conditions document for you to download. So we here we advise now the community to install this new version, and then the testing as such, the testing plan is to start this NRO, so non-repudiation of origin in the NRO. The testing is planned to be started from 18th of March. Yeah, so 2024. So this is the plan for the the fund domains, the remaining domains, and the dates. Yeah, this is the plan. So this is the full. With this slide, we have covered all the functional domains and the plan of when this will be available for the counterparties testing. And here in this last slide on the UT, for the UT, so here we have given the current status of the different testing and the migration documents. Yeah, so the documents that are published, normally they are available in the ECP website under the link for professional use. So you can go in there and check for the latest published version. And then recently we've published also the info pack, the strategy, to all these, and then the user testing terms of reference for the pre-production environment. So all these fundamental test cases. Yeah, these documents were updated and then published recently. And the testing conditions document, as you know, that this is a document that's constantly updated and published on a fortnightly basis in the ECB website, clearly highlighting the limitations, restrictions, and the focus and the scope that's available for the counterparties testing. Yeah, so this is it. So that's it. That's all I have to say from my side on the user testing aspects. So now over to you, Ellie.
Thank you, Amini. Excellent. Thanks for this. So we're having a lot of questions come in for you, but I think a lot of them are actually already answered, but maybe we just need to reiterate a few of them, Bobby. So there's a few questions again, but I mean, you just said it now, but can you say it again on the testing condition document? People asking, will this continuously be updated all the way through the testing phase? I guess the answer is yes, Bobby, but can you please stress this?
Yeah, the answer is yes, Elaine, and the answer is very regularly. So it really is, like I said, it's the Bible. It's very important. It will also be, it will also include the various the version of the NRO that you need, the version of the Assertio GoSign desktop. The most important thing here is to keep an eye on we have not opened it up yet. When we open it up, the current version that we're talking about is the 6.90.20. This, of course, is not updated yet from our side, but before we open it up, we will be updating this. Yeah, we're working on this. The colleagues are testing this internally already, so you can be sure that when we open it up, it will be all of the documentation will be ready for you. So the key here, exactly as Bamini said, if you look on the ECB website, these documents will be constantly updated. The most important ones really for the testing is the testing conditions document, and for our migration, which Anna Isa will discuss, is the info pack, and these will continuously be updated. Yeah, so that's the main questions I think that we've had related to NRO, the main questions that we've had related to the update of the documents. So maybe what we could do, I don't know, there have been some messages related to messaging. I think maybe Flora could take the floor on that one. Is that okay, Flora?
Sure. Yes, Bobby. Thank you. So there was one question related to SEM 002, whether the structure is available, and then I would like to confirm that it is already in the software, and it was also published in the catalog of messages, so you can check. And we also have checked whether our change request that we have implemented, which follows the ISO upgrades, whether it impacts this, and then it seems it's not. So please rely on what is available. And there was another question whether the counterparties whether the counterparties will use the corporate action, the SCORE corporate action messaging. And then here the answer is that we have implemented SCORE, so ECMS is aligned to SCORE, and then it's reflected in our messages as published in the message catalog, in the catalog of messages. And then, of course, there is a difference if you're U2A or A2A, or if counterpart is U2A or A2A. But like, yes, if somebody would like to communicate A2A and using these messages, we are SCORE compliant, and so should be the counterparty. Thank you.
Thank you, Flora. So I think that covered a few of them. Bobby, do you want to stress a deadline again? There was somebody asking about the what is the deadline for completing all the user tests? If that,
so I think maybe the participant there who asked that might have been talking about our mandatory test cases, or something like that.
Yep.
So this is not. I think they mentioned it was April. This is certainly not the case. So you must liaise with your NCB. You must ask them exactly what the deadline is. But of course, we have rescheduled, so there is no compunction on anyone to have the test cases done by April. Yeah. Now the only thing here is the other question that we had about the NRO, which was an important one. They wanted to know, is there different versions on the target services, different target services? But of course not. It will be a uniform. It will be a uniform version across the target services. Nobody needs to have one version of the GoSign desktop to run one service and not to run another. It will of course be the uniform version across the target services. But please pay attention to the qualified configurations document. Please pay attention to the testing conditions document. These will both include the updates on the NRO. So maybe we could move now to the migration side. So basically, I'll give a very short introduction, because Anna-Isa is our expert here on the migration, and she would give you the full rundown. But just from my side, really, the important thing here is the documentation is, of course, the info pack. There will also be information in the testing conditions document. What's very important is, we prepare so much of this documentation. Please read it. Please, don't think because you've come to this webinar that you're prepared. Your testers, your migration experts, your operations people must be familiar with our documentation. Please read it. Another very important point that Anna-Isa will make is that during our migration tests, there are some periods where we will ask you not to test anything else, only migration. We cannot police this. We cannot block you. We want you to please pay attention during this period that it's for migration test only, and that you would only do the activities which have been prescribed for you during this period. But Anna-Isa will go into that, but it's a very important takeaway from this one. So maybe Anna-Isa, I'll hand over to you.
Hello, good morning. I hope you can hear me. So good morning to everyone. I'm Anna-Isa. I'm part of the team that is dealing with the migration aspects for the ECMS. So what we will go through now is indeed the next steps in view of the migration, what is to come forward, and also a bit of the impacts of this new planning. So I think we can start indeed. So as Flora has explained in the planning presentation that you saw before, the new go live means that we would have new milestones for the migration to production. But also there was an update or an adaptation of the migration testing plan in order to provide us a better strategy for preparing the migration into production. And this ends up being that we will have additional tests. Specifically here, we are focusing on the tests for the pre-production environment or the U-test environment. We will have 3 more tests in which one of them is optional. So we have test 9, 11, and 12. This first test, test 9, is a pre-migration rehearsal, a preparation week dress rehearsal, and the migration week and dress rehearsal. So it's a longer test. And then test 11 and test 12, they are both what we call the preparation week dress rehearsals and migration week and dress rehearsals. You see the acronyms there. So this information is already part of the info pack under user testing and migration that is published on the ECB website. So I will not go too much on it, but what we can say and remind again, I think we discussed this previously, but the dress rehearsals mean that we would like to test as much as possible in prod-like conditions, and that would also reflect in terms of timing. The rehearsals, however, are adapted versions of these tests and of the phase. And in this case, it's for the pre-migration rehearsal, because of course, in production, we have a phase that is 7 weeks. And here we will have a phase that is only 4 weeks, well, actually 5 weeks long or 6 weeks, but there are other preparations we need to do that we will not need to do in the production environment because we don't have previous testing in the environment. So this is the direct consequences on the planning for the testing. For the migration milestones into production, you saw this in the first presentation. So I think if we then think about what this actually means in terms of the counterparty involvement. So if we can go to the, yes, thank you. So what it actually means, these migration tests and the counterparty involvement. So the participation of the counterparties in the tests is the same or is based in the activities that are expected in production. So if, in this case, for the migration to production, besides the connectivity phase where the counterparties will try the access via U2A and A2A when applicable, the counterparties are only foreseen to participate in the pre-migration phase by setting up their own users and checking the data that was set up by the NCBs. So this being said, if this is the expectation, then for when we apply this into the next upcoming migration tests, this would mean that the counterparty participation is expected only in test 9, in the part of the test that is a pre-migration rehearsal, which we saw it's from end April to 7th of June, the schedule. However, as I explained, because this test will be a short version of the test, we are still investigating at Eurosystem level which activities will need to be executed, because we have a smaller time frame. We will have to have also a shorter version of the test. So we are checking currently which activities will actually need to be re-executed. And in that sense, since the only activity for the counterparties is the setup of their own users, this has still to be confirmed if it's needed. And so the actual confirmation of this participation by the counterparties is expected at the end of the quarter of this first quarter. So by end of March, we should have clarity if the counterparty participation will actually be required for test 9 or not. Still, if it's confirmed that the execution of counterparty activities would be planned for the test, then this would be no earlier than the 27th of May. So as I explained, test 9 starts on the 29th of April, but counterparty activities would only start on the 27th of May if we would have these activities. So for the other tests that you saw, so test 9 for the preparation week and migration week and dress rehearsals, and test 11 and test 12, there would be no counterparty participation expected. Unless, however, as you know, the NCBs at national level, they can request the counterparties to execute some other activities necessary. This is catered at national level. It depends on some national particularities. So if this is the case, if they request you these activities, whatever the phase they are requested for in production, then it would mean that probably you would need to participate also in the tests. But this will then be communicated directly to you by your NCBs. Okay, so just to clarify, then in conclusion, only test 9. Then this part here of the involvement of the counterparties as well in the test, what is important, I think Bobby made a reference to it at the start, is, or in the introduction to this presentation, is indeed, it's really important that the migration test is respected in its execution by the counterparties. And what do we mean by this? First of all, you should only execute the activities that you have been assigned to. So unless it's a planned activity, unless you receive the request from your NCB and it's in the plan that you received as part of the activities, then you should not execute any other activity. But it's also important that you respect the time. So for example, when we had the connectivity testing in pre-prod, there was several delays by some of the counterparties. So it's important that you keep to the timings of the activities. And also then respecting the environment availability by not carrying out non-migration tasks in the environment during the migration test, but even accessing the environment. The same would be expected in prod, that you are not in the environment unless you have an activity to perform. And so you should practice the same in the migration tests. The fact is that unwanted activity will create disruptions or unnecessary effects on the migration test that we cannot then reverse or filter out. So it's important that we respect this in order to have let's say valuable migration tests that are then fundamental for the validation of the migration strategy for the ECMS to production. So we would like to reiterate here, because we saw some activities in the past in some of the tests that were not supposed to be carried out, some even not partaking to migration, they were normal user testing. So I would really ask you to pay attention, even though you are not involved in the tests, as it will be for the majority of the migration tests in the pre-prod environment. It is still requested of you that you take into account the dates of these tests and do not execute any other tests during this moment in the environment, as it could affect the migration tests ongoing. So now moving a bit more into the production timeline, and here is a recall of the migration journey in terms of production on how do we get ready for the go live. So we would start by the registration form submission to the NCBs, and then the connectivity to ECMS via ESMIG, of course, based on the green light of the NCBs. And then we have the migration of data that is mostly done by the NCBs and CSTs, and then the counterparty would set up their own reference data. Also upon a green light of the NCB, we will have the preparation week and then the migration weekend. It's all in charge of the NCB, and then we have the go live. So we had previously started this journey. The last time we had this focus session, we had already highlighted to the start of the journey that it would be in September, and it did eventually start. So if we go to the next slide, what we know is that we were, before the decision of the new go live date, we were already in this ECMS connectivity setup and execution phase. It was already ongoing for production. So we were actually in the step 2 of the migration journey. And then the phase was put on hold because it was the discussions and the decisions of a new go live date. So with this new go live date, as mentioned by Flora, the connectivity phase was also replanned. And so the phase will start now again on the 2nd of April, 2024. And is expected that the counterparties would start around 6th of May, 2024. Of course, this is a tentative date because it is essential that you only start upon a green light of your NCBs, of your relevant NCB. But it is expected that it would be around 6th of May. This is provided the core CB will have the start of their own activities, then it will be the NCB setting up the data, and only then can the counterparty start. So it's necessary that your NCB finalizes setting you up as a party in ECMS, and therefore this is an expectation date. So we will resume now with the connectivity in April, so it's close enough. And the counterparties will then have until the 21st of June to finalize their connectivity testing. So if we go to the next slide, it's a kind of a reminder of what are the steps then for this connectivity to ECMS via ESMIG. So as mentioned, the goal or the scope is to ensure that there is full end-to-end connectivity to the ECMS via ESMIC. And this is valid for all actors. And we want to check if it is working in A2A, so meaning correct inbound and outbound message transmission, but also U2A access, so meaning via the ECMS GUI. The A2A is applicable only to some counterparties, so not all. So it's not mandatory. It's only mandatory if you plan to have an A2A connectivity, same as we had in the connectivity in the pre-production environment that happened last year, 2023, in the beginning of the year. So when is it planned? As mentioned, the phase will be from 2nd of April to 21st of June. But the first 2 weeks will be dedicated to 4CB activities for the preparation of the environment. Then we will have the NCBs, CSTs, and TPAs connectivity that will start. And then the NCBs will also set up the counterparties as parties in the ECMS based on the registration forms received by the NCBs. And so once this activity is concluded, your NCB will provide you a green light to say that you can start the connectivity testing. It is foreseen, as I mentioned, that this would be 6th of May, 2024. This phase will involve all of the actors. Then who is the first level of support? It depends a bit on the nature of the problem. So it can be your NSP support team, depending on which NSP you selected. Can be the ECMS National Service Desk, especially for counterparties. You would liaise with these two supports, and in case of need, the NSP team support and the ECMS National Service Desk can cooperate in joint teleconferences. So this is to speed up some of the problems. So this is, it's just repeating in production the phase we have already done in pre-production. So the key documents for these that you should follow, because they describe the steps perfectly, would be the Target Services Connectivity Guide, which is available on the ECB webpage. And of course, then there are the selected NSP documents and guides. This depends on your NSP. They will have documents on their website as well. So this is the next phase in production, what we will do. But to prepare for these, and as I mentioned, this is the second step in the journey, but there was a step before, which is the submission of the registration forms. And also in preparation for the connectivity, there are certain activities you need to do with your NSP specifically. So in preparation for this phase, and we know that this phase had already started and then was put on hold. So we know that for many of the counterparties, you have probably already executed these activities. So you would not need to re-execute them again in principle. But it's still important for you to validate that you have performed all of the necessary steps. So don't wait until 6th of May to check that you have all of the necessary pre-requirements to start the connectivity. Take care of it now so that you can start on the 6th of May as expected. So for these, you have this kind of a checklist here with these two tasks. So the first one is all of the necessary steps at the NSP, at the network service provider level. So like selecting the NSP, you should have the contract, the e-ordering, the requests for the closed group of users, subscription, all of these, it's important steps that you should do. They are specified in the Target Services Connectivity Guide, but you can also check them with your NSP specifically if there is something that you should do. And then there is, of course, the sending of the migration registration form to your NCB. If you haven't done it yet, you should do it. Regarding the registration forms, it may be necessary that by your NCB that they may request you to resubmit the form or request additional data or confirmation of data. This is also has to do with the evolution of the system and some additional data that might be required for the NCBs to ask you. So this is something that that it will be based on your NCB request, but please do check if you have sent it already or not. And as I mentioned, the Target Services Connectivity Guide or the NSP should be consulted for further information on these pre-checks that you should do before you start. So that would be the next step for us in production. In the testing side, please do expect to know more about your participation or not in test 9 by the end of the first quarter. And please do pay attention that if there is a migration test ongoing, to not do other activities in the environment. So I think that's it from my side, but probably there will be some questions.
Thank you, Anissa. Super good. So we're being bombarded here with questions. So I think things are coming in a little bit of a delay. So if I can ask you to stay on, Anissa, then there may be questions that we will come to you. But we're having now a lot of questions come in on the testing. Bobby, if I can bring Bobby back.
For sure, Ellen.
That would be great.
Yeah. We've had a lot, so I'll try and group them together, you know, in the different areas, if you like. So firstly, in terms of connectivity, so what's very important is the specifications for ESMIG. These are on our shared documentation page in the ECB. They're not on the ECMS dedicated page, but we will share all of these in any case. But just to let you know that the ESMIG documents are over there now. There was a question from one participant about a distinguished name issue that was posted here in the chat. I have to say that this issue looks like an incident that you need to raise with your service desk. And this for me is kind of a general thing, you know, that your national service desk is your point of contact. And for something related to distinguished names, first of all, you must consult the connectivity guide. And then if you are not getting results that are as expected, then that's when you liaise with your national service desk. So that particular one that was posted on the DN, I think it's for the national service desk, but it's the wider point. So then we have also, there was a question about 4i, you know, the use of the 4i's functionality. Now from our side, it should be, there may be some restrictions to this, but this is definitely also one for those of you. It's very important, of course, that you would work in operations. Maybe while we're testing, we test in 2 eyes at the start, and then we progress to the 4 eyes when we're doing some user acceptance testing or whatever. But for those of you who, of course, will always use it in production, if you're having any issues with the 4-eye functionality at the moment, please raise an incident with your service desk. Please discuss it with them. And there may be some restrictions. I think there are 1 or 2 open incidents related to this functionality, but the National Service Desk will let you know. Then in relation to Econs 2, there were some questions about Econs 2, of course, how ECMS will interact with Econs 2. This is a very important part. It may be that it may have to interact with Econs 2. It will definitely be that we will have to test this. We will bring you more information on this. If not in a future session, we will bring it in maybe in a dedicated session. So let's table Econs 2, but it is very, very important, and it will be tested before we go live, the interaction of Econs 2 and how it works, or how it would work were we to have such a situation where Econs 2 would have to be brought up. The testing conditions document, the next one, will be released on the 26th of January, so in 2 days' time. What's very important for everyone is that in the testing conditions document, there is always a notice to say when the next one will be coming. So for those of you who want to know when the next one is coming, it will always be in the current edition. So this is a very important one for all of you as well. And this is why this document is your Bible. You will see the updates, and you will see when the next set of updates are coming. There was a question about testing. I think what's very important here, what Anna-Isa was speaking to you about in the connectivity testing there, was we're talking about connecting to production. So this has nothing to do with what you will test in the pre-production environment. You know, we will open, as Bamini rightly stated, we will open all of this functionality to you. We open it in stages. We will make it clear in the testing conditions. And likewise, also for the migration testing, if there are any restrictions in the migration testing, we will also include this in the testing conditions document. So this is very important for you to consult this. As we say, you know, read the manual. This is the most important one. The info pack is important, but the testing conditions, both from a testing and from a migration perspective, is very important. Another very important document is the fundamental test cases. This shows the fundamental the test cases that you will need to pass in order to access the platform, that your NCB will certify you as ready to access the platform, but it also gives the overview of the fundamental functionality of ECMS. So I think I've gone through everything. There was also a mention about the planning of our bill module, the testing of the bill module. We're not there yet. We have still some changes being made to the bill module. We're still working on that, but it will be opened up. There will be invoicing, and we will let you all know when the time comes. This will also be in the testing conditions document, so you can see how important this document is. I think I have answered all of the. Yes, I think I've answered everything that I thought was open there.
Super, thank you, Bobby. There's a question or two about maybe for you, Anissa, about if there's specific documentation about the migration testing, and if so, where they can be found. You want to bring a word on that?
Yes. Can you still see it? Okay.
Yeah, we see and hear you.
Good. So no, for the migration testing, we, as I mentioned before, or the migration in particular, sorry, there could be some national particularities of the NCBs, of the different NCBs. So the documentation, if it's shared, is shared directly by the NCBs with the counterparties. So whatever documentation is available for the tests, they are made available through, or even the migration in production, they are made available directly through the NCB. Now, what you can find published on the ECB website is, of course, as mentioned, is the dates for the migration tests. And even in the info pack, you have more details on the division of the test, let's say. So by actor, when would they be expected to participate in a specific test? So this information is included in the info pack. And then specific documentation saying which step you need to do when. Then this is provided by the NCB in case there is counterparty activity expected in that test. So as you may see, only up to now, only test 4 had the participation of the counterparties because it was a pre-migration dress rehearsal. And besides that, the different connectivity phases in this case in the EU test environment. So that's why also you might only have received information once about migration tests because this was the only test and it was in, I think, April or May 2024. So 2023. So it has been a while. But now, of course, if test 9, the counterparty participation is confirmed, then your NCB should provide you more information on when your activity is expected.
We had a few questions about a specific slide. Do you want to say a few words on this one? So it's about the production migration. So I think they're referring to this slide, right, Anissa?
Yes. So this slide, it's so the previous slide to this is the journey to production. So to clarify, this is the migration journey in production. So it's not about the migration tests, it's about the steps that we will take in order to reach the go live in the production environment. So based on this, and we are on step 2, or we will start step 2 soon. We were in step 2, and we will restart. So it's important that you check that you have executed step 1, which means.
Oh, we lost your voice, Anissa. Yeah, we lost you still.
Okay, while she's gone, Elena,
exactly. We move to Bobby and then we bring you back, Anissa, okay? So Bobby, over to you.
Yeah. So basically what's important here, there was a question in the chat about will we be able to test during the migration phase? So I think for me, there's 2 points. And Isa made the point, during our migration testing, there will be restrictions to your testing, and Anna Isa will make that clear. But during migration in production, which Anna Isa is going through with you now, our test environment will be open. And while we have a formal end of testing in the planning, for the end of September or whatever, the test environment will be open. You will have access. You will be able to test in October. You will be able to test right up to the go live and even after, because of course, when we move to production, we will then be testing the new releases in the test environment. So there is no plan to close the test environment. For those of you, the only restriction, as I said, in the test environment may be brought about by, as Anna Isa explained, the migration test. And then we would ask you not to to test other things that are non-migration related during that period. Yeah. And then when we move to production, you will still be on the lower level, able to test as much as you want, all functionalities with no restriction, while this pre-migration that Anna is describing here is taking place. And then for the step 2, as Anna said, the connectivity, this was the point that some of you have already reached. Those of you who have not, we ask you to catch up. And those of you who have, you are now already ready. We had a little bit of a halt because of the rescheduling, but now we can start to progress again, follow the timetable that's being set for you by the relevant documentation. And those of you who had not reached it to that time, now is the time to catch up. I think that's the summary of Anaisa's points, and also the migration related questions that we had. And then the fundamental test cases, there was another question in the chat. Is there a link between the functionality and the fundamental test cases? So this is the fundamental test case documentation. In that documentation is literally the section of the UDFS, the section of the documentation, the description of the functionality, and everything is in this. So that is very, very important indeed for you to know. Yeah.
All right, super. I don't know if.
Oh, sorry. No, there was one more, Ellen. There
Yeah.
was one more, and it was an important one as well. It was a question, Ellen, about our period of disconnecting, where we disconnect from T2S and from CLM. And of course, there will be restrictions. There will be. The point is that you could, at the moment, the flow, the messaging flow between ECMS and the other services is cut off. Yeah. But nonetheless, there are numerous functionalities, and there are lots of things that you will be able to test. Testing is not halting. We will be concentrating on functionalities and certain things. We'll personally be taking the opportunity to do a volume test, for example, during this period, and certain things like that, in order to kind of keep the testing continued, but to be able to do it. And also there is the simulator, which will be reconnected. So it's not as good, sadly, as the T2S, as good as the CLM, but nonetheless, the simulator is there to bring further value, and it has been used before. So we will try to make it, as good as we possibly can. But of course, as you know, as you all know, the best is when we're fully connected. And I explained to you the reason why we must disconnect in order to give the T2S community and the T2 community production-like conditions during that period.
Thank you, Bobby. So I think we covered a lot there. I just want to see if we can bring Anissa back. Do we have sound on you again, or?
I think so.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Super.
Apologies for that.
No worries.
So is there another question that you would like me to address, Eileen? So it's a bit of chaotic in the chat. I don't know if Bobby confirmed this, but there was a question about the connectivity in phase that we would have, and then if the other functionalities would be available. But I think Bobby replied.
Bobby covered that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
indeed. That only the connectivity is for prod environment, not for the user testing environment. So I think that one was covered. And as I mentioned, the info pack on the user testing and migration contains the dates for the migration tests, so it should be available there. But I think also the testing conditions, I think Bobby mentioned before, also usually cover any unavailability of the environment. So you could also check there. Is there other questions, Eileen, that you would like me to?
I think this covers it. You are bombarding us here, so thanks a lot for that, for all the participants. But I think we are covered on most of it. We're just double checking here. Is there anything more we want to go back to now? Bobby, Flora, is there anything that we're missing? I think we have managed to cover most of the questions in here. So then I just want to thank Anissa as well, and thanks for coming back, for picking up questions, and also Bobby for you to jumping in here.
Thanks. There's one thing, Ellen, that I've been referring to mandatory test cases. This is from my old T2 days here in the ECMS. They're called the fundamental test cases. Yeah. So just to everyone in the terminology, it is definitely the fundamental test cases here in ECMS. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Super. Thanks for that, Bobby. Okay, so I think this is it. And then I just want to bring George back. Are you still with us, George? And then I want you to close for us here.
Thank you, Eileen. Do you have me on your bandwidth?
You're there, Bob. Yeah, you're there,
Okay.
George.
Okay, very good. No, thanks a lot. I have to say this is quite impressive in my view. Also in terms of engagement and questions. I mean, I witnessed some questions on the exact versioning of Assessia software, and also the concrete questions on the dates, very exact dates. I mean, for me, Eileen, this is a sign of a reassuring sign of very good engagement, and this is exactly what we expected. I think, as you say, we addressed most of them. There may be one or two questions that we can also follow up, and this goes to my next comment. Always liaise very closely with your national central bank, your NCB. We also have the meetings with the CSDs, the fortnightly ones, and I would say in some cases, take corporate access, for example, it will be important that you engage with your CSD. One message also to a comment to make, and this comes, let's say, more to us, I would say, as ECB team. And one of you questioned at the beginning, but a general question on the challenges on the planning and how do we feel comfortable. I mean, it is challenging. Let's be very clear and frank here. It's a European project covering 20 jurisdictions in the euro area. If anything, is challenging. We know that. We've done that in the past for other target services and projects. But I would say this is also part of the benefits, or the big benefits to be reaped in terms of harmonization and standardization on collateral management in Europe and beyond. I would like to say that the Eurosystem and the ECB are very committed to provide the quality and to provide the resources to get there in November. And I want to reassure you also from the steering level, the Market Infrastructure Board, but also from the ECB decision-making bodies, as I said in my introductory remarks, there is very close monitoring and very close reporting on the progress as we go along. So I'm reassured that we have, obviously, the checks and balances to get there by November. I wish we had the bandwidth, speaking about bandwidth, to have very frequent focus sessions. I found them extremely valuable. What I can commit now at this stage is that we need to organize another one, probably around September. I mean, Eileen and the communication team will communicate accordingly. And probably we need to focus, I would say, more into the migration and the operational aspects as we move closer to Q3, to Q4, and to the go live. With these remarks, I just want to thank you very much, all of you, for your time, for your engagement, and many thanks also to everybody who instrumentalized and operationalized this event. And I'm not referring also only to the ECB team, which is exceptional, but also to the NCBs out there for supporting all this material, for being in the governance, and for relating the information to you. So thank you very much, and have a good rest of the day.
Thank you, George. So that almost brings us to the end. But as I mentioned at the beginning, we would really encourage you all just to give us that little bit of feedback at the end. It's just going to take you, 30 seconds to do. It's super simple. Just scan the QR code on the screen now, or you can also go with a browser with the instructions on the screen now. But do it. Grab your phone, just scan the QR code and answer the questions. These are really questions that would help us form the next session so that we ensure that it's really what you want to hear. What are the concerns that you guys have? What do you want us to dive into? Because we do them for you. And so it's super important that you engage with us on this. So do fill it in. It will take you no time whatsoever, because then we can really follow up on what George said to provide a new focus session for you before the migration will begin. So I just want to thank all of you for joining. It's great to see so many participants again, and so active participants. Of course, I want to thank all the ECB speakers. Great to have you on board and fulfilling this event with super content, and for all the people behind that supported here and trying to answer as many questions as possible. Answer the survey, and generally just stay informed about what we do by following us on one of our social media channels. We're on X, we have a LinkedIn group, or you can join our newsletter. And here we share information about anything that is new directly with you. So it's the easiest way to find updates immediately. You get them, right pushed to you. So it's an easy way to stay informed. So thank you from my side as well. And, stay tuned for more sessions. Thanks so much.